Sounds good? All right, we're going to start with the special town meeting. So welcome to the special town meeting. My name is Celeste St. Jacques, and I'm the elected town moderator. We're going to move right into the articles for the special town meeting. So we're wrapping up for the fiscal year 24 with the special town meeting. Article 1, we're going to have the motion by the Finance Committee.
The Finance Committee recommends that the town vote Article 1 as written in the warrant. The Finance Committee makes a motion to appropriate and transfer the sum of $116,412 from General Fund Salary Reserve and the sum of $6,500 from EMS Salary Reserve and the sum of $4,900 from Sewer Salary Reserve and the sum of $9,500 from Water Salary Reserve, for a total of $137,312 for salary accounts as written in the warrant.
Can I have a second?
Lita DiMaria, second.
So I just want to clarify that this requires a majority vote, and it's requested by the Select Board, the Sewer Commission, and the Water Commission. Are there any public questions and comments regarding Article 1? I want you to please come up to the microphone. Once again, we're having a microphone shortage. So if you are unable to come to the microphone, please raise your hand, and we'll take one of the microphones off the stand and have one of the girls bring to you. Are there any questions or comments on Article 1? All in favor of Article 1, please say aye. Aye. Is there anyone opposed to Article 1? Please say no. Article 1 passes unanimously. We're going to move on to Article 2.
The Committee recommends that the town vote Article 2 as written in the warrant. The Finance Committee makes a motion to appropriate and transfer the sum of $77,460 from free cash for the purpose of snow ice removal expenses and tourism grant as written in the warrant.
Is there a second?
Second.
This also requires a majority vote, and it's requested by the DPW, Town Accountant, and the Select Board. Does anyone have any questions or comments regarding Article 2? All in favor of Article 2, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed, please say no. The article passes unanimously. We're going to move on to Article 3.
The Finance Committee recommends that the town vote Article 3 as written in the warrant. The Finance Committee makes a motion to appropriate and transfer the sum of $35,000 from free cash for the purpose of the Other Post-Employment Benefits Trust Fund as written in the warrant.
Is there a second?
Second.
This is requested by the Town Accountant and also requires a majority vote. Are there any questions or comments regarding Article 3? All in favor of Article 3, please say aye. Aye. Is there anyone opposed? Please say no. The article passes unanimously. Article 4.
The Finance Committee recommends that the town vote Article 4 as written in the warrant. The Finance Committee makes a motion to appropriate and transfer the sum of $500,000 from free cash for the purpose of DPW paving projects as written in the warrant.
This also requires a majority vote, and it's requested by DPW and the Select Board. Are there any questions or comments regarding Article 4? Oh, I'm sorry. I forgot to make the second, so we need a second.
Second.
Any questions or comments regarding Article 4? All in favor of Article 4, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, please say no. The article passes unanimously. Article 5.
The Finance Committee recommends that the town vote Article 5 as written in the warrant. The Finance Committee makes a motion to appropriate and transfer the sum of $1,400 from FY24 cemetery ground supplies and $2,000 from FY24 cemetery improvements line item to cemetery mower capital line item as written in the warrant.
And may I have a second?
Second.
This is requested by the Cemetery Commission and also requires a majority vote. Are there any questions or comments regarding this article? All in favor of Article 5, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, please say no. The article passes unanimously. I'd like to take a motion to conclude the special town meeting. In a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? That meeting's closed. We're going to move on to the annual town meeting. I'm going to start with some explanations about the annual town meeting and some operational notes. So again, my name is Celeste St. Jacques, and I'm the elected town moderator. And I just want to point out fire exits. There's two at the back, and there's a fire exit over here, and one in the back of the stage. So town meeting is, we in Massachusetts, Southwick, have an open town meeting, which is the oldest form of government. We follow town meeting time, our town bylaws, and Mass General laws. The difference between a town board meeting and an open town meeting is in this town meeting, you're the legislator. So when you get up and speak, you can only speak on the article being presented. And the most significant difference is that you are the voters, you're the legislature. So it's really important. Any questions or comments you have, please direct towards me, the moderator, and I will direct them to the appropriate person to answer your questions. When speaking, there's an extra voter over there. When you're speaking, please limit your questions and comments to 2 minutes and 2 questions when you get up. Just to keep it gets a little confusing when you start asking multiple questions. If you cannot walk to the microphone, like I said the last time, please raise your hand and I'll make sure someone brings you a microphone. No personal attacks. You're not really allowed to say anyone's name. We're only talking about the articles. Make sure it's relevant. Don't use your cell phone. If you need to use your cell phone, please go into the hallway. And I want to take a moment to introduce the wonderful people up here on stage with me. I have Nadine Signoni, the Assistant Chief Administrative Officer. I have Robert Williams, who is our Acting Chief Administrative Officer. Diane Gale, our Select Board Clerk. Jason Crone, the Vice Chair of the Select Board. Doug Moglen is not with us tonight. He's the Chairman of the Select Board. Jessica Menzone, our Town Clerk. Christina Mayette, our incoming Town Clerk. Benjamin Quayle, our Town Council. And then behind me we have our Town Accountant, Laura Fletcher, and the Assistant Town Accountant, Melissa Bridges. On my other side, I have the Finance Committee. I have the Chairman, Joseph Dede, the Vice Chair, Alita De Maria, Dr. Richard Zalowski, Paul Connolly, Robert Horacek Jr., Dave Metheny, and Sherry Milton. Is anyone? I also really want to take everybody who comes out and serves on a board in town. I know it's not easy to put yourself out there. We really do appreciate it. And also a special thanks to Ken Stromsky for being our video guru. He does a great job for us. And the staff here at the high school has done a phenomenal job. I want to talk about voting before we start. We do a voice vote. And if we need to go to a card vote, we will use, this year we're doing green for yes and yellow for no. I'll explain that if we end up having to do that. I have people here helping me count hands. I have David Pierce, Robert Stevenson, and Kristen Andrade that will help if we need to count hands. I have some student volunteers. I have Abigail Austin and Haley Marty who are here to help. I'd like to take a moment of silence for some people who have served our community who have passed over the past year. Giles Degno, who was on the Fire Commission, John Andrews, a Braves officer, Joan Hagan, a teacher at Southwick Tolland Granville Regional School District and on the Housing Authority, Lieutenant Robert Laughlin of the Southwick Police Department, Margaret A. Smith, Council on Aging and Senior Center volunteer, Peg Smith, a Council on Aging volunteer. And please let's have a moment of silence for all the servicemen and women who served our country. The first motion I will need to make is a motion for non-residents who may need to speak at town meetings. Those people include Nadine Signoni, the Assistant CAO, Benjamin Coyle, our Town Council, Police Chief Robert Landis, Fire Chief Richard Stefanowitz, Jennifer Willard, our Superintendent of Schools, Joseph Trammell, our Business Manager of our schools, Tom Heber, our Board of Health Director, Kara Cartello, our Council on Aging and Parks and Rec Director, John Goddard, our Town Planner, Lynn Blair, our Library Director, Kyle Scott, our Building Inspector. Can I have a motion to allow these people to speak at town meeting? And a second? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Is there anyone opposed? Please say no. Okay, that passes unanimously. I actually would like to take a minute to ask Jim Putnam to read an invocation for us.
Good evening. We have come together in civil assembly as a community in a tradition that is older than our Commonwealth and our nation. We come together to make decisions about our community. As we deliberate, let us advocate for our positions, but not at the expense of others. Let us remember that there is an immense gap between saying, I am right, and saying, I believe I am right. And that our neighbors with whom we disagree are good people with hopes and dreams as true and as high as ours. And let us always remember that in the end, caring for each other in this community is of far greater importance than any difference we may have. Thank you.
At this time, I'd like to ask Police Chief Robert Landis, who will be retiring in June, I believe, to come up and lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Actually forgot to mention, as far as making motions, if you need to make an amendment, it needs to be in writing. And there are different policies for other amendments, but if we have any different motions, if we have any of those that we come across, we'll address them and go. I'll explain the procedure as we go. We actually have about 2 minutes because it's 6:20 and we officially cannot open the warrant until 6:30. So we're gonna take a brief water break. The town clerk has assured me that the warrant has been properly posted in the locations by the constable, and our quorum has been reached.
Madam Moderator, I move that we dispose of the reading of the warrant and act on the articles individually.
May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye. This is so we don't have to read the entire warrant, and we'll take out the articles and just vote on them individually. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. All right, here we go. We're ready to start. That passed unanimously. Okay. So Article 1 does not need any action. Article 1 is the ballots, and we had our election last week, so this has already been acted upon. We're going to move on to Articles 2, 3, 4, and 5. These articles are all routine kind of housekeeping maintenance articles that are requested by the Select Board. They all require a majority, and they're the town reports, accepting the town reports, appointment of minor officers, selling and trading obsolete equipment, and applying for accepting grants. So I'd like to make a motion that we combine all these articles and vote on them as one. Can I have would anyone like to make that motion? Can I have a second? All in favor on voting on these articles together, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Okay, so now that was just to combine them. So now we need to make a motion to bring these to the floor. So can I have a motion to bring these articles to the floor? In a second. Does anyone have any questions or comments regarding any of these articles? All in favor of Articles 2 through 5, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say no. The articles all pass unanimously. We're going to move on to Article 6. And Article 6 is an amendment and additional to a revolving account for the Economic Development Committee. This requires a majority vote and is requested by the Economic Development Committee and the Select Board. I believe the Economic Development Chairman may have wanted to speak on this.
Good
You
evening.
know what, Inga, I
Pardon?
may have not done one thing. Would you make a motion for this article?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that this article is submitted for tonight's presentation.
Thank you. And may I have a second? Second. Go ahead. Thank you.
Yes, good evening, Madam Moderator and citizens of Southwick. I am Inga Hotelling. I reside at 45 Klein Road in Southwick, and I'm the chair of the Economic Development Commission. This is a unique request because this fund has been dormant for years. And I wasn't made aware of it until I was elected chair in September of 2023. Myself and Jack Cody, the vice chair, met with Laura and looked at our financials. And it was brought to my attention that this account existed as a gift account. And it was generated over years ago from the previous Economic Development Commission hosting job fairs and other events where people would come and participate and would purchase tickets or booths. So this fund, which is approximately $3,743, is not from taxpayers' money. It was generated from business functions. We would like to utilize this money going forward to host other community events with guest speakers from whether it's the Western Mass Economic Commission partners, bringing in people to talk about grants or small business loans. There's a variety of applications we would like to use this fund for. So I'm looking for approval from the town to be able to put this into a revolving account so we can use it for community activism. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions or comments regarding this revolving account for economic development? All in favor of Article 6, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say no. The article passes unanimously. Article 7 is for roadway construction borrowing. It requires a 2/3 majority, and it is requested by the Select Board and the DPW, and the Finance Committee will make the motion.
The Finance Committee recommends that the town vote Article 7 as written in the warrant. The Finance Committee makes a motion that the sum of $800,000 is appropriated to pay cost of roadway reconstruction, including cost of paving, resurfacing, and the payment of all other costs incidental and related therefore. And that to meet this appropriation, the treasurer, with the approval of the Select Board, is authorized to borrow said amount under the pursuant to General Law, Chapter 44, Section 7, Subsection 1, and pursuant to any other enabling authority, and to issue bonds or notes of the town therefore.
Is there a second? Second. Does anyone have any questions or comments regarding Article 7 on roadway construction borrowing? All in favor of Article 7, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say no. The article passes unanimously. Article 8 is the annual budget. It requires a majority vote. It is requested by the Finance Committee. I'm going to ask the Finance Committee to make the motion.
The Finance Committee recommends that the town vote Article 8 as written in the warrant. The Finance Committee makes a motion to raise and appropriate the sum of $15,425,670, and appropriate and transfer from free cash the sum of $2,057,000, and to appropriate and transfer from cable peg access the sum of $44,485, and appropriate and transfer from sale of lots the sum of $6,000, and appropriate and transfer from overlay surplus the sum of $100,000, and appropriate and transfer from recycling grant the sum of $3,000, and appropriate and transfer from sewer capital account the sum of $23,000, and appropriate and transfer from sewer retained earnings the sum of $211,327, for the grand total of $17,870,482, which represents the general fund budget in the amount of $13,366,085, and the sewer budget of $1,338,376, and the water fund budget of $1,545,748, and the emergency medical services budget of $1,620,273.
Can I have a second? Second. I'm going to explain what we're going to do with the budget this year because we kind of reworked it a little bit, as you see in front of you. It's going back only 3 years, and we added some percentages. We did this just to make it a little bit easier to use. We also changed it from the page orientation, so I'm hoping it's a little bit easier to read. And I'm going to have my girls running the PowerPoint presentation. We'll go move to slides, and I'll tell you when to move. You can actually go to the next slide and you'll see what I'm talking about. So I made a slide of each one with what the fiscal year is, and then what the change is and what the percentage is. So I think this is going to be really helpful and make it a little bit easier to understand. But of course, this was a lot of what people had said last year, that the budget was a little bit difficult to read. So I really want to put a shout out to Laura Fletcher and Joseph Dede because they really put a lot of work into reworking this to make it. But what we're going to do is we'll vote on each individual section, and you can do questions and comments on each individual section, but just ask your question about that because we're not going to go back to each section. If you have any questions, please stand up. When you do come up, do what Ava did and say your name and address. I think I might have forgot that in my opening remarks. So our first section is general government, and that starts on page 5 and it ends on page 9. I'm going to ask Mr. Dede to say what the changes are for this year from fiscal year 24 to 25.
Well, what you're seeing here is there's new employees. The treasurer collector clerk position has been divided up somewhat. We have a new COA coming in, I believe I said that right. So there's a lot of flux in there by dividing up the treasurer collector treasurer as far as equipment goes and staffing. That's where you see your most issues. And if you look to the right, you see the percentages. That should help this year. Some are zero, some are new. So that's what I got.
So the total for general government is $3,138,133. Does anyone have any questions or comments on that?
I do. Joe Dede, 258 Feeding Hills Road, Southwick, Mass. Harbor Master Stipend. I'd like to know what that is all about.
Okay, Harbor Master Stipend. Would that be the chief of police?
Yes, ma'am. That apparently was something that was negotiated with the new chief of police. I hadn't had a chance to speak to Mr. Moblin, who negotiated that contract. with the new chief, so I'm not sure of the history. I can tell you, as the harbor master, what I've seen is continually the demand of that position is becoming greater and greater as the issues in the lakes as arose. So that may have taken a role in that.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions or comments about general government? All in favor of this section, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say no. Okay, that section passes unanimously. The next section is public safety. The total for public safety is $3,860,679. Would you like to make a comment? Dr.
Sure.
Finance Committee?
As you can see on page 10, a lot of it is zero funded. The Finance Committee really pushed for a level funded budget this year. And we, for the most part, got that other than, say, capital issues that we had to deal with. As far as the fire department goes, I know everyone's worrying about a $300,000 bunk room. What we decided with that was to give them some money to go to the next phase of designing. And we also gave them some money because basically the heating and air conditioning system isn't the best over there. And they need to address that now with the living quarters they have. That's pretty much what we came across.
Are there any questions and comments about public safety on the budget? All in favor of public safety, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Next, we move on to public works. That's page 13 to 15. That's $2,067,896. That is a 0% increase over fiscal year 24. Any comments from the Finance Committee on that?
Yep, this year we didn't, they came in front of us for a few small items. There's no big dump trucks this year. There's no plow packages. That's why you see the zeros on most of the stuff. And how they ended up pretty much being level funded.
Are there any questions or comments on that? All in favor of public works, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say no. The article passes unanimously. Well, that section, passes unanimously. Other environmental, and that's on page 15. This is $775. Finance Committee comments, please.
I have no comment.
No comment on that. Are there any public comments on that? All in favor of other environmental, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Human service is $434,668. That's an 8% increase. Finance Committee comments, please.
Sure. So at this package, the Council on Aging and Park and Rec at one time, for a few years, we kind of tried to combine them. For whatever reasons, it just didn't seem to work out like I had hoped it would. So we divided that back up. So that's what you're going to see down below. You're going to see the director for the senior center by itself, and then we had to add some folks to the Park and Rec salaries to make that all work out. And other than that, it's pretty much 0% funded, or level funded, I should say, and there is some that we cut here and there, but that's about the short of it. Oh, I'm sorry, Wally Park Water, $14,000. Hopefully it's enough, folks. That's all I got.
Are there any questions or comments regarding human services? All in favor of human services, please say aye. Aye. Is there anyone opposed? Please say no. That passes unanimously. Next is culture and recreation. That's page 16 and 17. $725,954. That's a 4% decrease. Finance Committee comments, please.
Apparently I already commented on that.
Oh, apparently he commented on that in the last. Are there any questions or comments on culture and recreation? All in favor of culture and recreation, please say aye. Aye. Is there anyone opposed? Please say no. That passes unanimously. Debt, interest, and insurance. $3,137,980. Finance Committee comments?
Well, as you can see, we have some debt that rolls off, and the theory over the years is you replace debt with debt. So the $800,000 that you guys looked at earlier for paving, that'll turn into a bond. That'll end up on this sheet eventually, and so whatever debt rolls off, that'll take its place. that's pretty much it. Financially, we look okay. We're spending a lot of money, and I hope it all works out.
Are there any questions and comments about debt, interest, and insurance? All in favor of this section, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say no. So the grand total for general government is $13,366,085. Are there any final questions or comments on the budget? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Is there anyone opposed? Please say no. That passes unanimously. Now we have three separate budgets that are stacked separately from the total general government fund. The first is sewer. The grand total for the sewer division is $1,338,376. Is there any comments from the Finance Committee?
No.
Any public questions or comments? All in favor of the sewer budget, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Water. The grand total for the water division, $1,545,748. Any comments from the Finance Committee?
Actually, I'd like Randy Brown to speak to that. Do we see any
Randy?
rate hikes coming up? Are we looking okay when it comes to the water and sewer?
Just give us your name and address, Randy, please.
Randy Brown, 95 Fred Jackson Road, DPW Director. So right now, there are no capital projects in the works. So our revenue matches our expenses at this point. So unless there are some capital projects that would cause us to revisit our rates, at this point there's no discussion on a rate increase.
Thank you. Are there any other questions and comments about the water section? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Is there anyone opposed? Please say no. That passes unanimously. The last section, EMS, that's $1,620,273. Comments from the Finance Committee, please.
Yep, that's up 25%. And what's in there is 3 paramedics that we are looking to hire with this budget. It came down to, do we do the housing or do we do the paramedics? And I think we all felt the paramedics were more important at this time. So that's the road that the Finance Committee took, and I believe the Select Board took with us. And that's really what you're seeing for the numbers.
Are there any public questions or comments regarding this budget? All in favor of the EMS budget, please say aye. Aye. Is there anyone opposed? Please say no. That passes unanimously. We're going to take a brief break for a little presentation.
Good evening, everybody. We have a little presentation here for, we'd like to ask Retiring Chief Landis to come up to the podium, please. Chief, we want to thank you for almost 30 years in law enforcement. In your many roles with the Southwick Police Department as an officer, sergeant, detective sergeant, lieutenant, and ultimately chief, you have exemplified what it means to be a dedicated and highly respected leader. The people of the town of Southwick appreciate your service and wish you the best in your pending retirement. Also, as a husband and father, we hope that your upcoming retirement affords you more time to spend with your family.
Chief Landis is also our acting CAO, our interim CAO, and I like to call him Chief Square for that. When Chief Landis was asked to step in as the interim CAO, he asked, well, what does that really entail? We all replied, we really have no idea, but we'll try to help you. While still maintaining his role as Chief of Police, the additional volume and intensity of challenging projects that the Chief has become immersed in has been remarkable. His calm demeanor, immediate grasp of the issues, and steady approach to resolution speaks volumes to his leadership qualities and his sense of service. He should feel very proud about this job well done, and we are truly grateful and indebted to Chief Landis.
Thanks again, everybody.
We're going to move on to Article 9. Article 9 is Departmental Revolving Fund Annual Spending Limit Authorization. This requires a majority vote, and it is requested by the Select Board. Can I have a motion by the Finance Committee, please?
Article 9, the finance.
Article 9, the Finance Committee recommends that the town vote Article 9 as written in the warrant. The Finance Committee makes a motion to authorize Article 9 in the amount of $410,000 for the purpose of inspectors revolving, hazmat revolving, boat ramp revolving, police chief lake revolving, local lake permitting revolving, custodial service fund revolving, COA revolving fund, COA classes revolving fund, sidewalk revolving, COA house numbering program revolving fund, local wetland application revolving fund, police cruiser fee fund revolving fund, and EDC revolving.
Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Are there any questions or comments regarding these revolving funds? All in favor of Article 9, please say aye. Aye. Is there anyone opposed to Article 9? Please say no. That passes unanimously. Article 10 is the Regional School District budget, and this is requested by the Southwick Tolland Granville Regional School District. It requires a majority vote, and I'm going to ask Jen Willard to come up and speak. Do you want to come up or do you want a microphone? You can come right here.
Can I read the end?
Oh, yes, we have to make a motion by the Finance Committee first.
Thank you. The Finance Committee recommends that the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $13,539,412 for the Southwick Tolland Granville Regional School District assessment for the fiscal year 2025.
A second? You can go ahead, Ms. Willard.
Is it working? Okay. So I'm just going to go over a few of the highlights to the budget. The budget's been out, a lot of talk around our budget this year with the out-of-district vocational tuitions going up, and this will be the last year that they will be in the school department's budget. Over the next year, they will be going into each individual town's budget. Some other highlights to this year's budget is, as everybody knows, the ESSER funding. You've seen a lot of school districts hitting financial cliffs due to the end of the ESSER funding and due to bringing in teachers and paying for their salaries. During the course of the COVID recovery, we did create we created 3 in-district special education programs. We did not put them in the operating budget. Instead, we chose to use our rural school aid, which is currently in the budget for $15 million, which we get about $400,000 of. That's why we don't get a lot we have our minimal local aid, but we don't get a lot of money from the state because we are a hold harmless district. So when you talk to your legislators, advocate for rural school aid, the potential could be funded at $60 million, which would have a significant impact on our district. So rural school aid is going to be covering 4 special education teachers to maintain those in-district programming. We were able to cover all of our out-of-district special education tuitions out of school choice revolving. However, our out-of-district special education costs are increasing due to the needs of our children in our district. And we have to provide them an appropriate education. We try to keep them in district, but it's not always possible. And this year we had a significant offset to our budget with our E&D and our school choice revolving to keep our discretionary line item at a minimum per the request from Joe Didi. So we worked with the Finance Committee and we brought forward a budget that still maintains and meets the needs of the children in our district while also being fiscally responsible. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions or comments regarding the school budget?
I do.
Okay, could you please come forward to the microphone?
Deborah Patchen, 11 Patriots Way. My question is, and I might have missed this, and if I did, I apologize, but that second school safety officer, what budget does that come out of?
Jen, Ms. Villa, could you answer that, or?
The second SRO is in the school budget this year.
And what does that cost us?
Well, we have budgeted $80,000 for the SRO for this upcoming school year.
Are there any other questions or comments? Yes.
Deborah Herrick, 3 Shore Road. I have a question. What percentage increase is the budget over last year?
I will bring Joe Turnell up here to answer the specifics about the numbers.
So the increase is from FY '24 to FY '25, 4.63% to the town of Southwick.
Does that answer your question? Any other questions or comments?
Could I address the resource officer?
Yes, you may.
Thank you. So the resource officer is in the school's budget. The town of Southwick will be billing them for that resource officer. So I guess in the end, we're going to pay 87% of that. The first resource officer that's been there for 9 or 10 years now, the town of Southwick covered and has always covered. And I think looking into the future, I can't speak for the rest of my board, but this guy, we're going to have to bill that accordingly as we move on too. So is he needed? I believe he is needed to cover the other 2 buildings, but the town isn't absorbing all of it. Thank you.
Thank you for the clarification. Any other questions or comments on the school budget? Yes. Ms. Patron.
Sorry. Deborah Patron, Patriots Way. So my question is, the school is only in session from approximately September to June. What happens to those school resource officers during times when school is not in session, like vacations, and, what are they doing?
So they're going to be billing us for the time that the SRO is in the school. That's why Joe Didi just said they'll be billing us directly and we will pay that.
Did that answer your question? Or
Yes.
did you? Okay. Thank you. Any other questions or comments? All in favor of this school budget, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, please say no.
No.
Okay, that the article passes.
And we also are not bringing forward any capital this year.
Okay, thank you. Article 11. Article 11 is an opioid settlement special revenue fund, and this is requested by the select board, and it requires a majority vote. Can I have the motion from the Finance Committee, please?
The Finance Committee recommends that the town vote Article 11 as written in the warrant. The Finance Committee makes a motion to appropriate and transfer the sum of $7,307.21 from free cash into an opiate settlement special reserve fund.
Is there a second?
Second.
Does anyone have any questions regarding this special revenue fund? Sure, actually, yes, I will. Well, I'm going to direct that question to the vice chair of the finance, of the select board.
What was the question again? I'm sorry.
Just what it's for.
What it's for is, with all the opioid lawsuits that came out over the last several years, this is Southwick's portion of that national lawsuit settlement. What it will be used for will be used for any sort of opioid classes, in some cases as far as trainings. It also can be used to resupply Narcan to both the police department and fire department, as well as the schools if they carry it. And it is also used for rehabilitation of folks that want to use that for that purpose.
Are there any other questions regarding this account? All in favor of Article 11, please say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, please say no. That passes unanimously. Article 12 is a wholesale water contract. May I have a motion for Article 12?
So moved.
In a second.
Second.
This is requested by the DPW and does require a majority vote. Randy, could you just give us a little synopsis of what this is?
Randy Brown, 95 Fred Jackson Road, DPW Director. So we've had a wholesale contract agreement with Springfield Water and Sewer for at least 50 years, since at least the 1970s. Our current agreement expires on June 30th, 2024, sorry. So this is, will allow us to renew our contract with Springfield Water and Sewer. Per Mass General Law, the town cannot enter a contract in exceeding 3 years without town meeting approval. So Springfield is asking for a 5-year agreement, so this will authorize the select board to sign into that 5-year agreement as requested.
Thank you. Are there any questions regarding Article 12? All in favor of Article 12, please say aye. Aye. Is there anyone opposed? Please say no. The article passes unanimously. Article 13 is the community preservation budget. Can I have a motion for Article 13 as it appears in the warrant?
So moved.
And may I have a second? Would the CPC like to come forward?
Madam Moderator, I do have an amendment to that warrant.
Okay. Is there a second for that?
Second.
Could you explain the amendment, please?
Yes, if you look down, hello? If we look down at the last bullet, you can see reserve 434,172. We're going to change that to $416,497 in fiscal year 25 Community Preservation Fund. Revenues for Community Preservation General Unreserved Fund to 65% instead of 70%.
Are there any questions or comments for Mr. Pratt on the amendment? So you need to, okay, yes, please.
Why is it changed?
Can you stand up? If you can stand up, you don't have to come to the microphone, we can hear you. Just,
228 Los Anderson Road.
thank you, we can hear you, so go ahead.
Why is it that you changed the number?
You'll, next warrant will explain that. We forgot to figure in the 5% that we give, we voted on to give to the administrative fund. So the administrative will be coming out of the general fund.
Just a follow-up.
Go ahead.
I'm still out. And the follow-up is, why does the 5% come out of the preservation fund?
Okay, so this is basically housekeeping. Every year we put in 10% into housing, 10% to open space and recreation, and 10% to historical, which leaves the other 70%. So we can't take any from the other three, but we can draw from the general unreserved.
Should we find out why we need the 5% first?
Yes, we do have a secretary. We do have administrative fees that we also pay. We pay money into the Community Preservation Coalition for advice from them as well. So we do have administrative fees that go along with our our budget.
Are there any other questions or comments regarding this amendment? So before we actually have a final vote, we actually need to vote to approve this budget. So I want to take a vote to approve this amendment. So all in favor of this amendment, please say aye. Aye. Is there anyone opposed? Please say no. Okay, so the amendment passes. So now, is there any questions or comments regarding the CPC budget as amended? All in favor of the CPC budget as amended, please say aye. Aye. Is there anyone opposed? Please say no. No. Okay, the article passes. Okay, moving on to Article 14, which is also part of the Community Preservation Committee. Can I have a motion for Article 14 as it appears on the warrant?
So moved.
And can I have a second? This also requires a majority vote and is requested by the Community Preservation Committee. Are there any questions? Actually, let me just ask the Finance Committee if they didn't want to make any comments. Do you have any comments on the CPC administrative budget?
No, the funds are available.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments regarding the CPC administrative and operating expense budget? All in favor of Article 14, please say aye. Aye. Is there anyone opposed? Please say no. That passes unanimously. Article 15 is the alum treatment debt services. Requires a majority vote and is requested by the CPCC and the Select Board. As you see, this is one that's been reoccurring the last couple of years. Can I have a motion for Article 15 as it appears on the warrant?
So moved.
And may I have a second? And Finance Committee?
The funds are available.
Are there any questions or comments regarding the alum treatment debt service? All in favor of Article 15, please say aye. Aye. Is there anyone opposed? Please say no. No. The motion passes. Article 16, it's the Southwick Library Yard revitalization for the Southwick Public Library. This requires a majority vote, and this is requested by the CPC. Can I have a motion for Article 16?
So moved.
And a second? Finance Committee?
Funds are available.
Okay. Do you have any questions or comments? Or a little, do you want to give a little explanation on what they're planning on doing? Do you know, Mr. Pratt?
I believe we have somebody here from the library committee.
Yeah, is the woman from the library committee, Lynn Blair, here to speak on that? Like, no. Oh, there you are.
Hi everyone, Lynn Blair from the Southwick Public Library. So basically we were asking for funds from the CPC to revitalize our library yard, to just make it a more comfortable space for the community, add some nice features. As you can probably tell right now, it's a little sad and empty. So we just wanted to make it a really nice community space. We get a lot of kids who use it after school, families, especially during the nicer weather. So we just really wanted to make it a better community space for you all.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments? Yes.
Albert Ranja, 228 Los Anderson Road. I'd like to know why it isn't in the library budget for this, and how it fits the community preservation plan.
Would you like to take that, Mr. Pratt?
It is an improvement to the town. It's for community use, so it is a public space under recreation. It would fit. So we did put it in for that. We're just bringing it forward. It's up to you, Bill.
Go ahead. You can ask another question.
I still don't know why it's not in the library budget. I understand what Mr. Pratt said. The other thing is, my understanding of the law, it's for open spaces but not recreation. and what I heard referred to is it's there for recreation. So, biggest concern.
They can be used for open space or recreation. It's like and recreation. So they can be used for either one or both at the same time, like we do with the Walling Park, the paddle golf course, things like that. So.
Are there any other questions or comments regarding the library revitalization? All in favor of Article 16, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say no. No. The article passes. Article 17. Can I have a motion for Article 17 as it appears on the warrant?
So moved.
And can I have a second? This requires a majority vote, and it is requested by the CPC and its Lake Management Committee, and it's the dredging of South Cove Middle Pond dredging. Are there any questions or comments regarding this? Just say your name and address again, please.
My name is Al Franja, 228 Los Anderson Road, and I still don't understand how this applies to the community preservation.
This also goes towards open space recreation. People do use the lake as a public waterway, and it would fit in the same category as we did when the select board brought forward the alum treatment for the lake.
Yes, please. Young.
Deb Patton, 11 Patriots Way. My question is, what exactly are you doing? Is this the outlet for Great Brook? Is this what you're talking about?
Yes, Lake Management brought forward a project that they do have funded through a grant. So this is just in case there are extra costs over the grant that they have to fund this project. I can see this returning back to the general fund or the community preservation. If it's not used, it comes back to the general fund.
Any other questions or comments regarding Article 17? Yes.
Just a comment, and I guess I'm not opposed to any of these projects. I'm only opposed to using the community preservation fund as a slush fund. Every time we're a little bit short on dough, we can bring it in, the town doesn't have to raise any money. That's all. It just seems that way.
Any other comments on Article 17, please? All in favor of Article 17, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say no. No. The article passes. Article 18 is a zoning bylaw amendment of non-conforming use structures and lots. This is a zoning, and it requires a 2/3 majority. Can I have a motion for Article 18 as it appears on the warrant?
So,
And a second. And I'm going to ask majority from the planning board to speak.
First, Madam Moderator, I have two amendments to the warrant article.
And your first amendment?
The first amendment is a more of an administrative amendment. It is in section, hold on one second, sorry. Section 28A3A4, which on the warrant is on page 6, the bottom of page 6. In allowing for single-family and two-family uses for lots that are non-conforming, it has as a condition that there's a positive recommendation from the health director and the Board of Health. That is something that, as well as the fire department and safety officer, that is something that town council was a little concerned that it may be putting something away from the planning board onto the other departments, I believe. And so while it's certainly something we take into account and we would expect that there would be positive recommendations, in something that we granted, it's not going to be part of the bylaw itself.
Okay. So he made the motion for that amendment. Is there a second?
Second.
So is there any questions or comments regarding this amendment for Mr. Doherty? All in favor of this amendment, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say no. Okay, that amendment passes. And we're going to go to the second amendment.
Sure. Thank you, Madam Moderator. There is a second amendment. It adds some words to section 28C1B, which on the warrant article is on page 8. This relates to sort of the ability to rebuild and continue to use a non-conforming use. All this does, we're asking that it add the words "as determined by the planning board," following the words, quote, "and further provided that the intensity and impact of such non-conforming use upon the neighborhood and surrounding properties." So it basically delineates that it is the planning board making that decision rather than, say, the building inspector making an administrative decision. That needs to stay with the planning board.
Is there a second for that motion?
Second.
Okay, we just have a question. We're going to start with questions. Go ahead.
Yeah,
Can you give us your name and address, please?
David Mackey, Alcove Road. Isn't that the role of the zoning board to make that determination?
Correct. That's what we're doing. We're changing. It's unclear from this what's in the warrant article. It could be read that it's the building inspector who's allowed to do it, and so we're inserting the words that it's a determination to be made by the planning board, just to clarify that based on town council advice.
Yeah, I didn't say the plan. I said the zoning board, not the planning board.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. The zoning board of appeals?
Yes.
No.
Isn't that
They're a foot and inches board. This is not a foot and inches decision. This is, I mean, my understanding, this is right in the hub of a planning board decision of a special permit granting authority, which is not the zoning board of appeals, I believe. It's certainly, my understanding is that town council believes that it's within our authority, though.
Has the zoning board signed off on that or weighed in?
No. Again, I don't consider... the zoning board of appeals in this town is not a special permit granting authority. And so they have the ability to grant variances, which are saying if you're required to have, like, say, a setback of 50 feet, you're allowed to have a setback of 40 feet on this particular property. This is related to the rebuilding of properties and continuing on with the non-conforming use, which is an existing bylaw in the zoning bylaws. And it is simply saying that the planning board will make a determination about the intensity and impact of the non-conforming use on the neighborhood and surrounding properties.
So clarification, does this only apply to special permits
This is,
or appeals that happen to fall into this category? I'll just state my concern. Having served on the zoning board for roughly, close to 20 years, we believe that it is our role to make those determinations about the appropriateness of special permits and variances.
I agree 100% with variances. The planning board in this town is the special permit granting authority. I don't think there's any debate about that. And so I don't know why the zoning board of appeals would have any say in special permits.
Last comment, I just think it would have been a nice idea to engage the zoning board in the decision.
Are there any other questions or comments about this amendment?
I have one. Joe Didi, 258 Feeding Hills Road, Southwick, Mass. To the chair. Sir, so I think what David's trying to say is, and I'm not following it 100%, but there's an issue with a parcel. It's been a restaurant for 100 years. And this helps you guys navigate through that system that didn't exist. I think what David is saying nicely is, how does that play out if they do want to put an addition on or something of that spec? In real life, if it was a regular parcel, and it came into a zoning issue or it came into a feet and inch issue, if my building was too close to the street and I want to add on, that used to trip what David was talking about. How does that change now that this mechanism, if it passes, is in place? Does it bypass all of that? Is it a quick way through versus, are we losing ZBA's luster because we're doing this? I don't know.
And I appreciate you clarifying that, and I apologize for not understanding your point. I thought we were simply talking about the amendment, which I don't think this has anything to do with. I think this is a bigger question, and I'm happy to answer it now or subsequently.
Let's deal with the amendment, and then we'll talk more about what Mr. Dede and Mr. Medley were talking about. So, anything else on the amendment? All in favor of the amendment to the bylaw, please say aye. Aye. Is there anyone opposed? Okay, so I'm going to ask Mr. Doherty to answer the question of Mr. Dede in his explanation and give the recommendation of the planning board. Maybe you could explain it a little bit better, clarify.
Sure. And I would say, to be fair, I think it's a reasonable question, and I'm sort of thinking on the spot now because there was nothing that was brought before us when we held the hearings on this. So this is an existing zoning bylaw. Non-conforming uses is an existing zoning bylaw. And so they have the ability to grant special permits to allow for non-conforming uses that would not fit within the setbacks or other feet and inches that would apply to the zoning board of appeals. I think there is room for discussion about whether something like this would go to the zoning board, but to my understanding, the non-conforming uses especially would stay with the planning board. I think what you may be talking about is with the non-conforming structures, if they're going to expand on the structures and that impacts on some kind of setback, should that be involved with the zoning board of appeals? I think that's a fair point for discussion, and it's probably something we should discuss more. I'm not sure this is necessarily the place for it. It didn't get brought up at the time, but it's certainly something I'm willing to think about and how to incorporate that. I'm not trying to step on the planning board is not trying to step on the shoes of the zoning board of appeals. We're just simply trying to deal with the non-conforming use problem that we saw, which is that there are a number of properties in this town. This bylaw has been out there for some 50 years, right? And so there are properties that are being used in a way, the same way that is quote-unquote non-conforming for 50 years. It strikes us that, at some point that becomes sort of consistent with what's going on in that area. And so we should expand a little bit what they have the ability to do rather than staying within their footprint.
And the planning board is recommending passing this bylaw?
It is.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments to Mr. Doherty regarding this zoning bylaw? Okay. I don't think there's any more questions or comments. And again, this is a 2/3 majority vote. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. No. Okay. That passes. Okay, Article 17. I'm sorry, I'm reading, I need to flip the page. We're on Article 19 now, which is another zoning bylaw amendment. And this has to deal with short-term rentals. It requires a 2/3 majority. Can I have a motion for Article 19?
So moved.
And a second. Okay, I'm going to ask you to give an explanation in your recommendations, Mr. Doherty, and I'll try to see if I can bring back up the PowerPoint presentation when you do that.
All right. So Article 19 is a pretty straightforward one. This was the short-term rentals bylaw, which was passed last year. It is any bylaw that gets passed or amendment goes to the Attorney General's. They look at it. They had a couple of suggested changes on the bylaw. This is what this is representing. They're pretty minor administrative changes to the process and to the deadline for appeal from 45 to 60 days to 65 days.
And that is the recommendation of the planning board?
Yes.
care of the audio, please see if you can come fix the PowerPoint presentation. Does anyone have any questions or comments for Mr. Doherty on this article? All in favor of Article 19, please say aye. Aye. Is there anyone opposed? Please say no. That passes unanimously. Okay. We're moving on to Article 20, which is a temporary slope easement. This is requested by the Select Board and the DPW, and it requires a 2/3 majority. Since I don't have I have my beautiful picture of a barn up here. Maybe, since I don't have the words up, maybe Randy could just give us a little brief kind of explanation on what this temporary slope easement kind of entails. And can I have a motion for Article 20? So moved. And a second.
Randy Brown, 95 Fred Jackson Road, DPW Director. So Article 20 and 21 are related to the acceptance of Cody Lane and LaCory Drive as town accepted roads. There is a plot plan that's listed on Article 20, and in that plot plan there is a location of a slope easement that was required for the development of that road. So what this will do is allow the town to accept that easement.
You could leave it just like that and just advance the page, would be fine. Okay. Are there any questions or comments regarding Article 20, the slope easement? All in favor of Article 20, please say aye. Aye. Is there anyone opposed? Please say no. Article 20 passes unanimously. Article 21 is the acceptance of LaCory Drive and Cody Lane. It's requested by the Select Board and the DPW and requires a majority vote. We have a motion for Article 21 as it appears in the warrant. So moved. And a second? Perfect. Are there any questions and comments regarding the acceptance of LaCory Drive and Cody Lane? Oh, yes, Ms. Page. Just give your name and address again.
Deborah Page and Patrick, Patriots Way, 11 Patriots Way. I know where LaCory Drive is. Where's Cody Lane?
Go ahead, Randy.
It's a really small cut through between LaCory Drive and Grano Circle. If you don't drive down LaCory, you'll never see it.
Thank you. Are there any questions or comments about LaCory Drive, Cody Lane? All in favor of Article 21, please say aye. Aye. Oh, I'm sorry, there was one right there.
Debbie Rancho, 628 Los Anderson Road. This is a comment in general about a pattern that we seem to have developed in this town. The developers felt they establish a development which is private and doesn't necessarily comply to town codes. And then after that happens, they want the town to adopt the property, the road or whatever, and then we're stuck with the mess. This happened on Nicholson Hill, for example, where they didn't comply to code, and then we adopted the road, and now it's our fault, or it's our responsibility to clean it up. And I assume, Randy, that since you're recommending this, that is not the case in this situation, that this does comply.
Yeah, both of these roads are in good condition. I did write a letter about that to the Select Board, the Planning Board, when they voted on this a few months ago. So there's really little funds that are required now of the town, aside from I'd call it the legal paperwork that was authorized in Article 20 to accept the slope and the drainage easements. So the developer got basically 99% of the job done, and then the job ended. And now we're stuck with the bill. Yep.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay. Now we can vote. All in favor of Article 21, please say aye. Aye. Is there anyone opposed? Please say no. The article passes unanimously. Article 22 is a donation of land on Berkshire Avenue, and this is to accept it. It requires a majority vote, and it was requested by the Conservation Committee. Can I have a motion for Article 22 as it appears on the warrant?
So moved.
And a second. Does anyone have any questions or comments regarding the donation of land on Berkshire Avenue? All in favor of this donation of land, please say aye. Aye. Is there anyone opposed? Please say no. The article passes unanimously. Article 23 is a bond council rescission vote. It requires a majority, and it is requested by the Select Board. May I have a motion by the Finance Committee, please?
The Finance Committee recommends that the town vote Article 23 as written in the warrant. The Finance Committee makes a motion to that the town vote to rescind the May 19, 2021 Article 9, borrowing authorization for the unused amount of $575,000.
Is there a second? Are there any questions or comments regarding Article 23? All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The article passes unanimously. And now I'd like to have a motion to conclude the annual town meeting for 2024. And can I have a second? All in favor say aye. Aye. Is there anyone opposed? Thank you. That article passes unanimously. Have a good